Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes.
Went down to Waimea Bay. What a fantastic sunny day. Boys and girls hanging round. Surfers going up and down. That's when I caught my wave. Knew what to do. Surf that wave right to the shore. And it's dreams come true.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Quivercast. I am Mike, your host. Let's get into the show. Everybody, welcome back to today's Quivercast. We have Darshan Gooch. How are you doing, Darshan?
Good, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm super stoked. So, you're a Santa Cruz guy. Were you always a Santa Cruz guy?
I am. Yeah, my dad is originally from England. He came to the States in 78. My mom, her grandparents lived in Santa Cruz, but her parents lived in San Rafael, just north of San Fran. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, my parents met down in Santa Monica before I was born. They had a little beach house at Silver Strand. So I was actually born in Ventura County. And then, my parents split fairly early on, but my mom and dad decided to move back up here and spent my whole life here since I was about 1.5.
Okay. Yeah, I read in one of the articles it says Oxnard, so I thought maybe you had a little bit of Oxnard history, but no,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah, my dad, he surfed a lot. He was into sailing, so mom would, tell me stories about him surfing, and he was into martial arts and stuff and getting into fights and shit down there. But my dad's an easy, happy-go-lucky guy. He never really looks for trouble, but he's probably not going to take a bunch of BS from somebody either.
Yeah, I think Oxnard too is a different world today than it was back then.
Right.
I'm guessing.
So I hear. All due respect to the Oxnard crew. Love surfing down there, and great community, a lot of good surfers.
Yeah. Okay, so basically your whole life has been East Side?
Yeah. So my dad, he's lived basically my whole life, Pleasure Point. So I've been kind of a part of this, East Side Pleasure Point surf community. My mom lived in Live Oak and moved to Aptos, which is kind of like more South Santa Cruz County.
Yep.
So I kind of did the back and forth thing for some years, but, surf stuff was always at dad's, and, it was always been my home. I'm still here, luckily. We call it renting a dream. Obviously, it's gotten harder and harder to live here with the gentrification and everything, but it's a good place to be. I can't really blame anyone for wanting to be here.
We'll touch on that subject too, because I'm
Sure.
super interested in that and your thoughts on that. But,
Absolutely.
Did your dad surf then? He surfed with you?
Yeah, I kind of grew up going to the beach with dad. He surfed. My dad's also, he was for work a general contractor. So, working class folk here. And yeah, just early memories. I was always going to the beach with dad. He would, leave me and paddle out and go ride some waves and, have someone with me or checking in on me and be, basically playing at the beach while dad surfed.
Okay. What's your first memory of surfing?
Oh boy. First memory. I remember being a young kid and my dad took me to this beach on the east side. It's called Sunny Cove. It's kind of just this little novelty, mostly boogie board wave, and there was swell. And, I remember just like, I always loved the water as a kid, but, I had kind of healthy respect and for, the environment, and there was swell that day. And I remember just like kind of being drawn out and watching how people were getting out, and there was enough energy to where, I got a little too brave, and I lost my footing. My feet got swept from me, and here I am, tumbling underwater, not really in control of what was going on. And, I think my dad was like, watch the whole thing. He's running, jumping over people on the beach and come pull me out by, the back of my wetsuit or whatever. But that was kind of the first like major, like fear incident with the ocean where you're like, oh, yeah, gotta be careful and respect this. And I wasn't just like that. I wasn't really that fearless type of like, oh, I'm just going no matter what.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I was kind of a little bit more timid and shy and just eased my way into it.
Did that affect you at that point, do you think?
I think it did. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm touching on. It just kind of grounded me in the reality of like, having to be aware and understand, that we got to be paying attention to what's going on and also be accountable for our actions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's your earliest memory of like actually like surfing, like for real surfing?
Yeah, I think I did like the boogie board and skim board thing.
Right.
I remember dad, like, being a general contractor, he like, traced some skim board template and made me this thing. And I think I
That's so
lost it
cool.
the first day, and
Yeah.
him just being all shattered about it. We painted it blue for whatever reason, and it just never, it was a done deal before it started kind of
Right.
thing.
Okay.
But I do remember like, my dad somehow found like one of those styrofoam surfboards they used to make like back in the 80s. He had found a couple of them on this job site, and I remember trying to go down there and like trying to ride this thing, and it was just like beer cooler foam, EPS,
Yeah. I remember
just
those.
no like fiberglass shell or
No.
resin or anything.
Yeah.
And then when I was 9, my dad he bought me a boogie board, and he's like, we're going to the beach. He's like, I got you a surf lesson with, we had a family friend who was like a 80s professional surfer on this side of town, Marcel Soros.
Okay.
So he's like, I got you a lesson with Marcel, and we're going out to 38th. And I was like, what? Like,
Whoa.
kind of, there was swell. Yeah, I was scared for sure, but
There's no beach.
yeah, I mean, little beach, but it was a weekend, and nice sunny day, and
Okay.
it was probably a little south swell. When you're a kid, everything seems like in my reality much bigger than it was, and I just wasn't established in being that far off the beach or reading waves of that quality.
Right.
And I rode a couple waves. I remember like standing up and just being like equally as scared as I was like having fun, and then like getting closer to the cliff, Marcel yelling at me, okay, jump off now, so I didn't like ride too far in, kind of a thing. But
that's funny.
So still I had that healthy fear of like, again, just respecting the ocean. And by the time I got to like 12, obviously my community and a lot more of my friends were surfing, and I was kind of going out by myself too, and figuring it out on my own. Dad was kind of more, got more invested with his work career and further growing family with another wife. So yeah, I was kind of on my own to figure it out, and it was just pretty natural progression, really.
Was your dad coming home and checking in like, hey, how was the surf, Darshan? Like,
yeah, and I remember, times of like dad trying to paddle out and stuff. But, as I got kind of into my surfing life, he kind of got more invested into his new family and work responsibility. And my dad's always had a really strong work ethic. So he's really invested in those parts of his life.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So how many other Groms your age were out there with you when you started, like 12, 13, 14 years?
There was a good community for sure. I mean, 12, 14, 20, I think there was like, we had our couple little pack of, half dozen kids on any given day. And we had like strong connection, and, it was a little different neighborhood back then. So it was like, we stuck together, and, if we got out of line, our elders, beat on us, held you beatings and tormented us. And they're, same, probably maybe you have memories of your childhood like that, where your, elders in your community are kind of looking out for the kids and have their own ideas of like how to bring them up. So,
okay. Were the older guys, the salty guys kind of, were they nice, or were they kind of like semi-abusive?
I mean, both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the abuse was with love, but there was definitely, we had a really strong kind of hardcore surf scene, like this was for me early 90s, and more so, in the early 80s before I came to surfing, it was called the Pleasure Point Boys.
Oh, okay.
They ran the neighborhood, the surf spots, and it was a little, quite a bit more rough and tough, if I'm being honest. And
Yeah, but be honest, please.
absolutely.
So I'm going to fast forward to today real quick, and then we'll go backwards
Sure.
again. But
Absolutely.
being at Pleasure Point many times I've been there, it's kind of overrun by people that don't per se surf or raised as surfers, new surfers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably a fair
Yeah.
idea of the place.
Was that happening in the 90s when you were?
No, not at all. I have like, it was really tight knit, some spots more than others, but
Yeah.
like I was saying, it was like we had the neighborhood crew and they held down the spot. And I have like early memories of like, obviously longboarding was kind of frowned upon in our social circle, and people were getting reprimanded, people were getting assaulted, people were punching holes in people's boards. I remember seeing like a long haired guy trying to walk down the staircase with a longboard, and one of the elders, I don't need to say names, but he had to go at the dude for no apparent reason and ended up stomping his board out on the staircase and have an altercation. Or people would lose their longboards and the crew would be up top just like throwing rocks at the board, just
Okay.
kind of old neighborhood shenanigans, so to speak.
Okay. Looking back at that today, see, I'm laughing because I can picture it.
Right.
Was it funny or then? What was your thoughts? What was your instincts?
It was more kind of normal day scenarios. There was times where it got really ugly where you're like, oh shit, like
too far?
that's too far for sure. Yeah. But also, it wasn't, it was just different, you know? I don't know how to say better or worse. Obviously, is it morally correct on a level? No, but there was an established system and hierarchy and kind of tribal mentality where the group stuck together and backed each other up and also educated people if they needed it, and it worked.
Now, what about like an outsider that could actually surf? Were they okay there, or was it still frowned upon?
Yeah, depending. I think it's all like totally. It's all in the approach. Is exactly where I was going. It's like if you show up, it's like whatever, Hawaii or anywhere, waves of consequence. You show up and can surf, and you're not like paddling to the top of the peak, straight off the bat trying to take set waves. You know your place. You show up with a smile and respect, and you're humble. It's like don't give people a reason to not like you, but I do think, people got a hard time that weren't necessarily like looking for trouble or maybe just not as cognizant of how they carried themselves.
Okay. Was that east side, west side thing going on then too?
Yeah, it was for sure. It's interesting for sure. Yeah, I think, typically guys, with the exception of like the most elite surfers, obviously, like guys really stuck to their spot and there was kind of comfort in that community. And it's like, obviously, if you're established in some place and know you can get great waves and have a relationship with that community and that wave, it's like, it doesn't make sense to go across town and, maybe be disrespected, even if you could surf, or, the guys are just sit on the bottom of the ladder of the totem pole, so to speak,
So I'm not clear on what you're saying, but it was going on. That was your generation, correct?
Yeah. And prior to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Prior.
Yeah,
to
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But all, there was also like a broader community. It's like, the guys that could surf knew each other and, could surf together. But, it's like you had guys that ruled the roost, and that was established order in that lineup. And, if you're not putting your time in and not established on that side of town, you're going to go over there and, people may or may not be cool, but you're not going to be getting the best waves. And yeah.
But literally it's a mile away or 2 miles away.
Exactly.
It's
silly for sure.
I'm not going to quote Richard Smith though, but he said sometimes, you have to go back and listen to the interview. But what I remember him saying is, he got treated when he would fly halfway around the world better than he would just going down the street sometimes.
Yeah, I listened to that. That was super accurate for sure.
And it doesn't make sense, but at the same time, it does make sense to me.
Yeah, it was interesting times for sure. It was different, but I think with like the elite of of, especially coming into my generation,
Yeah.
Like Adam Rapogel, Peter Mel, Flea, Ratty, Barney, like so many names and characters to speak on, and talented surfers. But, they had their spots, but they all kind of intermixed. And if you want to be a good surfer, you want to be riding the best waves and they all pushed each other, and, they had respect for one another, and
Okay.
made it work. Yeah.
Did you go over to like steamers and stuff and surf?
I did a little bit, kind of like more with friends or contest related. And then like,
contest.
I really looked up to, like, on our side of town, Adam Rapogel. He was kind of like the king, and I admired how, those boundaries didn't exist for him. And certain guys, it was like they were kind of above the social norm and had special privileges, so to speak. So I really didn't want to limit myself just to my place where I live. And obviously you want to be surfing good waves. So
all right,
you got to make friends and integrate with that broader community.
I love this subject. I'm so sorry. Okay.
No.
Was it hard for you to make friends on the West Side?
No, I think, without speaking too upfront, I don't, I knew which guys I needed to be cautious around. I knew socially how to handle myself.
Okay.
I felt like I had a good head on my shoulders, if I could be so bold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like all in that approach thing, and obviously whatever. It's could you have problems, where you live? Yeah. It's just all a matter of circumstance and how you're acting and dealing with those circumstances.
On a day-to-day basis, what wave would you rather surf? Like either steamers or Pleasure Point? What's more fun for you?
Neither, honestly. I mean, I by default, like if I surf by my house, it's kind of out of convenience. And, I love the lane. I don't feel like I've ever surfed out there enough to like have a relationship. That wave has a lot of character. And
it's a wonky, weird, kind of hard wave.
Yeah, it's a really good wave, but you got to put your time in, and I feel like if at this stage in my life, if I'm jumping in the car to drive to surf, it's not to go surf with 35 people. I'm usually getting in the car to go surf better waves, with a couple people or maybe by myself. So I do have waves over there on the West Side that I like to surf, and not opposed to surfing the lane, but yeah, and out front gets good too. I love surfing in my neighborhood on those days. It's just a lot of times, it's changed a lot. And, if the objective is like to go stand on a wave and ride the wave and have fun, and it's like the whole time you finally get a good wave, you waited your turn, and there's so many people that you can't even ride the wave. You're just like running the slalom course and getting frustrated. Like, I'm over that. Yeah, that's not really my jam.
We're going to go backwards now. All right. Back to your teenage years.
Sure.
So you guys have this crew of guys, and you're pretty much at that point surf near the house, right?
Yeah. I had a bike.
Yeah. There you go. Biking it.
Yeah.
True local.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, when my mom moved away, I had kind of like a complicated relationship with my stepmom, like kind of coming into my teens. We, with all due love and respect, we get along great now, but she kind of wanted her own family with my dad. My stepmom and my mom had friction. So there was, different points in time where I was stuck out in South County, Santa Cruz, Aptos, and like different school system. And I'd be like, as soon as I get out of school, I got to take the bus, or I got to grab my skateboard, or I got to jump on the bike and ride, 20, 25 minutes to get to the beach, before the sun gets down. And, and mom was working class too. So it was like, she didn't want to sit in traffic and come pick me up. I was kind of a little bit of a latchkey kid where I had to, learn how to facilitate for myself. And stepmom would be, we'd be having problems. And even though I had surf stuff at my dad, she'd be locking me out, and I'd have to like stash my shit at a friend's house. And, it was complicated, but normal per se life experience. Nothing too traumatic, but it was challenging, but I wanted it, and I wasn't afraid to work for it. And it was character building, right?
Yeah. Aptos, is it surfable?
Oh yeah, we got like 36 miles of beach break or something like that.
Yeah,
And
I've
like,
been there where that pier's at.
so
I wonder if
it's more seasonal, I would say. You know,
okay.
they get good sandbars down there, but I wasn't driving at that point in
Yeah.
my life. And even though I had a little bit of a surf community down there as well, it was like it was harder for me to find the person with a car, or it was definitely out of question to like ride the bike, or
Yeah.
you know, they didn't let surfboards on the bus, so there was little technicalities I had to navigate and learn how to deal with.
You think that drove you harder to want to surf?
It did for sure. You know, I wanted it bad, and like, you know, when you're young, it's like you want to reach for, you know, I saw what my elders were doing. I was really inspired by the surfing that was going on in my community, the broader Santa Cruz community, and guys were making money, and, you know,
It was the big time then, right? That's when
yeah,
all the dogs were
yeah,
ruling. Santa Cruz ruled for a while.
yeah, it was very inspiring times, and
Yeah.
I wanted that, you know, my heart was in it, and I wasn't opposed to working for it. So
So what did you want?
first and foremost, I just loved surfing.
Okay.
It was very, you know, life-giving to me, and a place for me to thrive and understand myself, challenge myself. And yeah, people were established in careers, and there was opportunities, and I liked, you know, competing with my peers, not just on a contest level, but pushing each other, and like working with photographers. That was like really, really fun for me. And
So was your goal to be a pro surfer, or was it to get in the surf industry, like a job? Like what was your goal?
yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think I was pretty adamant about, you know, trying to establish my skills and create a career in surfing.
Did you do good in contests?
You know, I did a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I didn't start really early. I think I was maybe like 14 or something. You know, I do like USSF contests,
Okay.
and back they had like the Christian surfers, you
Yeah.
know, circuit back then, and I had like people going to these contests and giving me rides as a kid. So I kind of jumped on that, and I had fun and some results early on. And then, you know, as I got further down that road, I just kind of like realized it wasn't really who I was,
Mhm.
or life giving to me. You know, I didn't really have like a strong desire to win, so to speak. I just like got kind of burnt on it.
So it was more like hanging out with the tribe than it was to like
Yeah,
dominate.
it's like about the gathering, and like
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, it feels great if you like win an event or have a good result, but
Right.
like that wasn't always the thing. And as I got older, it was just I kind of learned more that like this isn't really like, for me personally, it just wasn't like an environment for me to thrive in, or
Okay.
it wasn't as fun. I just like loved being with my friends and
Mhm.
pushing each other, and the free surf aspect was a little bit more authentic, I think, to who I was.
You were talking about like if you were a longboard, you're frowned upon at home. That's the
Yeah.
point and stuff. So you're riding a shortboard, I guess is the question.
Yeah. It was
100%
basically like,
shortboard.
yeah, you know, it was 3 fins only. You
Yeah.
know, we were riding these very narrow, thin,
Yeah.
everybody's right here.
Right. Yes. At what point did you switch up your boards? Because now I'm watching you and you're riding everything, and we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
At what point did
For
you
sure.
say,
You know, I think
or was it accident?
no, not at all. No, I think it was life circumstance, also changing of the times, influence, all of the above. It was probably, I would say, my early 20s. I kind of, you know, when I was a kid, I had like, dad bought me like these 80s shortboards, garage sale. And I remember having this old like Rick Noe, and it was a thruster, but the center box, it had a box fin in it. And the side fins were glass on it. And I remember maybe like 14 or 15, I was like, oh, I want to learn, you know, I see guys doing these spinners and 360s and just whatever crappy surf day. I'm like, oh, I'm going to pull the fin out of that and I'm going to learn that move. And then, you know, it's like, oh, that's kind of fun. Just like doing something different. So, and whatever, there was guys doing different stuff as I got older, you know, riding different boards. I think it was just like a personal finding out who I was, what worked for me, how to expand, how to think outside of that tribal mentality and figure out who am I as an individual? What works for me? What am I into, kind of thing.
Was any of the other friends doing the same thing, or are they still staying in that box?
Yeah, I would say most everyone was in the box. There was people kind of. We had like a couple old surfboard contests. They had like the Valentine's Day or St. Valentine's Day Massacre, it was called, and we'd all like ride boards no leash from the 70s. So some people would have single fins and twin fins, and like
that's rad.
That was a really cool event that happened for a couple of years. So there was people definitely dabbling with old boards, and also like Adam Rapogle, Jason Collins, Rat Boy. I'd see those guys, like grab an old board from the 70s at like a Howard or John Mel Freeline, and just like go out there and rip on this like primitive equipment. And you're like, whoa, these guys can actually ride that thing. And like, I wonder what that's like.
Okay.
Yeah, there was also greater influence too. Locally we had Jay Moriarty, CJ Nelson, and those guys were elders in my community who were taking a different route and like less kind of in the box, so to speak, and pushing their own ideas and interests and outside of kind of the social norms.
Yeah.
I mean, there was guys before that for sure, Terry Sims, but there was, a little bit of that kind of longboard movement going on. I had a friend, Dane Purley, who grew up in Washington, but he came to the Pleasure Point area, really talented outside of the box surfer, could ride frickin' the door off your house, whatever it was, finless, just no questions asked, did not give a shit, just held his own line, was curious about everything. He shaped over at Pearson Arrow. So
wow, okay.
I had guys like noticing my interest or openness into writing other things, and they were really, kind of like thought-provoking, giving me opportunities to, what's that board like? Or, go ride this, or let me make you a board, or let me give you this board. So
okay. Your mind starts expanding, right?
Right.
Are you going like straight longboard, or are you just riding like a shorter? Like,
I mean, well, I think actually
then,
it'd be silly not to talk about like that whole fish thing that the new fish revolution. So that was like a huge component where light bulbs were going off for me. Like that whole, searching for Tom Curran, the skip fry fish at Jeffrey's, or like 5.5 19.25.
That's the movie that changed a lot, right? Chris
Ward, Corey, Andy, all those guys, like freaking not just riding fishes in sub-average waves, but Waimea shore break, crazy stuff. And you're like, whoa, what is that? What's going on? And so that was like a huge turning point for me. Like I got really curious about equipment. I actually somehow got a Hamish Graham fireball fish, like one of those Tom Curran thrusters.
Yeah.
I had a friend, Mikey Centella, who rode for Rip Curl at the time, and he had access to like, shapers outside of the area. And I remember I got that board from him. It was probably the first legitimate fish I ever rode, and I was just like, mind exploded.
Okay. Why?
And just the amount of speed you get, and ability to approach a wave in different areas, and like carrying speed through. Yeah, the lines were different. Turning radius. You could fly over flat spots where like your narrow, long, chippy 3-fin thruster, you needed a good wave to make it do what it wanted to do. And so that was like, I kind of went down that rabbit hole initially, the fish thing, and then it expanded from there.
Were you still going back on the shortboard, or would you kind of walk away from it?
Oh, absolutely. No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was definitely, I would say, primarily riding my shortboard still, especially when the waves were good. But, I just started getting bored, I think, and more interested in like, sometimes summers can be slow here, especially. So that's kind of like when I saw guys like CJ and Dane, like going out riding longboards, and like, they'll just show up, smile on their face, and everyone's like, it was kind of more tight-lipped and less smiley, and different headspaces where, I was noticing things outside of my established social social realms, and I just got really curious, and I got tired of just being frustrated because there's no waves in the summer, or just small waves, and struggling. I wanted to learn different dances, so to speak, and learn how to have fun, like on a 1 foot wave or a waist high wave that's mushy, and like it was definitely a process of learning and pursuing.
At what point do you totally change your surfing, and you're getting different lines? You're in your 20s or?
Yeah, so that was like early mid 20s for sure. Yeah, and then the doors were just more open, like even today it's like when the waves are good, I want to ride a contemporary board, and I want to still surf with the kids, and different headspaces and emotional spaces, and I just use equipment as like a way to get my best achieved result.
Do you have problems when you're switching the equipment around on your surfing? Does it take a wave or two to kind of?
I mean, certain stuff, yeah. I feel like not so much in general, but like certain realms of equipment where you have to like ride it somewhat regularly, or be familiar with it to start operating at a high level on.
When did you kind of start traveling?
I mean, that was I guess it was just started with contests, and then like as I got burnt on that, I was going over to Hawaii every year, and done some trips to Mexico, Costa Rica, El Salvador, been to Ireland a couple times to surf. Like I had Dane Purley taking me up to the northwest corner of the US and showing me what his upbringing was like up there, different waves. And I don't really feel like well versed. I feel very fortunate for the opportunities I have had to travel. A lot of Mexico travel, mainland, Baja, and but there's always so much more to see, and just it was like not always. I didn't really have a big bag of resources, so it was kind of more like
you're a working class server.
Work with what you got.
100%. So actually, let's touch on a couple of those trips you went on. Though you said you went to the northwest corner. How was that? What were your thoughts?
It was different. It was much colder. Obviously, it was a smaller, kind of more rustic surf community. I feel like I got connected with the right people. The crew that could surf good up there. Dane's best friend, Brian Forcum, super good dude, very humble, and they have a good crew up there, and great waves. And it's just like, I remember I went up there one year around the holidays. They had like a snowstorm, and there's like a foot of snow on the beach, and you're surfing like, oh, this is different. It's like really gloves, booties, hood, the whole thing.
Right. I mean, you're in wetsuits year round at Santa Cruz, but that's a little thicker wetsuit. Hood.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot up there. So there's opportunities, if the weather's not good, you jump in the car and you can go search and tap into different zones and stuff.
So is this Washington or Oregon, or you don't want to say?
Washington in particular. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've driven the coast, but there's a lot of areas where you can't even see the coast. You can't even get to it.
Yeah. So again, it's like, just like anywhere when you travel, it's really ideal to be tuned in with community and like the network up there, so you can access stuff you don't know about.
So kind of going to these wild places like that, I consider that place a wild surf
Absolutely.
zone.
Yeah.
Were you intimidated by it, or was it
No. I mean, there was parts of it that were really comfortable. I mean, obviously the cold water, we deal with that here, but it was just more like so refreshing because it was like less developed surf culture and still good waves, and you're like, oh, there's like more room to breathe, and obviously this guy knows how to surf, and you don't want to piss this guy off, but like there's all this room over here, and just so cool to be in different zones and making new friends, and
that's rad.
Different existences, so to speak.
A couple more questions on that are coming to mind.
Yeah.
Even though you're in two different, basically parts of the United States.
Yeah. Same
coast. Are these surfers similar to the surfers in Santa Cruz or Southern California? Does that make sense? Could you relate to
different? I think just like more, surfing was less evolved in some ways. They didn't have like a lot of shapers. I don't really know specifically their surf history of like how developed that was, but just a little bit more primitive surf scene, but great wholesome people and good resources to dig into.
And then you're going to The other extreme in Mexico, and the water's warm. How was it losing the
Yeah.
wetsuit?
Oh man, so good.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did like it. I mean, there's an adapting process, of course. I remember just like getting used to like having so much freedom of movement in your body,
Right.
going from like a thick wetsuit and wearing booties, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is killer being in my shorts, but like, man, I don't know how to surf without booties,
Yeah,
that whole process of adapting,
waxing your chest and
all that, stomach rashes,
yeah.
fun stuff.
Okay. How was Ireland?
Ireland's incredible.
Is it similar to the Northwest at all? Or no?
Man, I just feel like my limited perception of Europe, everything just feels so much older. There's so much more history. And, the quality of waves in Ireland, again, I'm not really well versed in it, but just like the little pieces I got to experience is just incredible. And the community is great too, like I'm sure. It's hard to be an outsider. I didn't really have like that local network so much over there, but I had friends that had been before, and they're like, oh, we'll go surf over here, and this spot's fun when it's windy here. And so, any opportunity I had to like do trips and see new places, and I could make it work, I made it work.
Rad. And then Hawaii. Hawaii's just Hawaii, right?
So eye-opening for sure. Such a humbling experience on so many levels, even to this day. I've been going, I think the first time I went was when I was 14, and then like probably after 18 I was going almost every year for a good little while, and I still almost go every year. So it's just, man, it's so raw, and so I just have so much respect for the established systems over there, how people interact, and it's really encouraging to know there's still good, wholesome surf communities out there that, and whatever, it's growing, and they have their challenges too, and new people showing up all the time, but I'm still in awe of Hawaii and the communities over there.
Cool. Okay. So actually we talked about it earlier, the gentrification of Santa Cruz. What are your thoughts on that?
It's difficult for sure. I don't own my house, I'm married, I have 2 kids, and we've been really fortunate with continual opportunities. If we have to leave one of our rentals, we've been fortunate enough to stick around, and it's getting harder and harder to stick around. I'd say I've seen probably 90% of my community disappear for varying reasons, life decision, addiction, lack of good job. Everything's just gotten so expensive. We live so close to Silicon Valley, and also post-COVID, it's been a gradual thing, but especially post-COVID, people have a lot more freedom to work remotely, and they're relatively close in their other existence over the hill. And it's like, this is a special place. Well, if you can afford it, wouldn't you be here?
I would, but I mean, it's something. I mean, everywhere is kind of like by the coast now. Everyone wants to move by the beach.
For sure.
Has that changed the lineups there?
Oh, dramatically. Yeah.
Good, bad?
It's hard.
I think you touched on it already.
Good and bad for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm so blessed to like be able to raise my kids here. It's gotten a lot like, more friendly in general. I mean, I still think there's little hues of like that old neighborhood community here still, but it's pretty overrun for sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get on a downer. Just focusing on the negative. No, it's all good.
I just remember going back to Santa Cruz, like just visiting once a year in the 80s or something. You could fly across town. Now it's like a traffic jam.
It is for sure. I know you and Richard talked a bit about this. So it's like there's good things, there's bad things for sure. I think it's the thing I struggle with is like, investing my whole life here, the way that I grew up surfing with honor and respect. Granted, it's not, it comes with its own challenges. There's just not that established system. The neighborhood does not run the surf community, and we're dealing with, a mass influx of newer surfers, and we're also in a time where everyone's like so wants to be politically correct, which I think is a great thing. But now it's like just to educate someone and have a productive conversation. There's so much over entitlement and lack of awareness and common sense. It's like as soon as somebody opens their mouth, even out of like for the sake of like just keeping people safe or educating someone, it's like they're automatically you're the asshole.
Yes.
And then you have like you're outnumbered, so you have all these people that know nothing about surfing trying to call you out for educating somebody.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
that is a
it's
downer.
complicated.
Sorry. I don't know.
No, it's good.
I hope people listen to this maybe that don't surf that much or something would understand that you're just trying to help them, or we're just giving them advice.
And every day is different. Sometimes you have the capacity to say, look, like I have no intention of being mean to you, but like this is something that happened. We need to address it. And I'm willing to be considered an asshole for talking to you about this and reprimanding you for bad behavior instead of letting the same thing happen again and maybe somebody have to go to the hospital because we just had an accident because something wasn't addressed that could have been fixed there.
Yeah. So you got a couple younger kids. They're not young, but they're younger. Are they surfing?
Yeah. My son Jaya surfs. He's 12.
Yeah.
My daughter really loves the water. She is strong-willed. So we've surfed before together. She likes to boogie board. She's kind of getting into that age group with her friends where they're kind of getting more interested in surfing. But I just never push. And I want to allow them space to be who they are. I don't want to really I'm happy to facilitate for their needs and let them try everything. And I'm just not trying to shape that for them,
Yeah. And your wife surfs too?
She does. Yeah.
Like totally, like was she surfing before you met her, or did you get her into
She
surfing?
was, yeah. She started a little later. She started, I think, in her teens, 16, 18 or so. And so she surfs, regularly almost every day for sure. She likes to ride a longboard, but she'll ride, single fins, mid lengths. She's a little bit more particular about the waves that she likes to ride and operate in. And
so I've met a few couples that surf, and there's not a lot, but there are a few out there.
Yeah.
So you guys pull up to the beach or whatever beach on a trip or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you guys like the same kind of waves, or does one have to give and take?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like I like, I love riding longboards. If we're at whatever, we could just say Malibu or we even bring longboards to Hawaii and surf chuns or go to town if the waves are small. And my heart is more leans towards the good wave aspect. And like, so, it kind of works out when the waves are really pumping and there's not a lot of, organized playful waves for mom to surf. She'll still paddle out, in sizable waves, but she's kind of more particular. So like, we just facilitate for each other. She knows if I'm trying to go search and surf the spots I like to away from home, she makes space for me and I come back and say, hey, you want to surf? You want to go to the gym? You want to go to yoga? Like, how can I facilitate for you? Right. And it's a give and take thing.
But it's all fun at the end of the day. You guys both got
mostly. I mean, sometimes dad surfs too much, if we're being real about it, or, and other times I'm like, oh no, I don't really want to surf. You can go, go enjoy it. And we just try and keep that balance going. And then it's also really special when we all get to surf together.
Yeah, I bet.
So we try and, as the kids get older too, that's happening more and more.
Does mom over surf sometimes? She's out an extra hour.
I've been so selfish in my life and surf focused. Like most of the time, it really doesn't bother me. Like she can surf as long as she wants, and I genuinely want that result for her. If she's feeling it. If she's frustrated and doesn't want to surf, we go hike. Go in the forest or do other stuff. There's so much to do.
Oh yeah, Santa Cruz is loaded. What about the kids and the groms of Santa Cruz nowadays? Is there a full grom pack?
Yeah. Cool. No, it's great. There's definitely a movement there. It's changed a lot. There's a lot more, just for being blunt and being funny about it. There's like, not the soccer mom thing, but like the surf dad coach thing, the kids have like everything they could ever ask for. They got the custom, quiver and, the resources, and dad's got the fancy van and he's paying for the surf coach and mom's videoing. And there's a little bit more of that, which is cool. Like I didn't have that. So part of me is like, man, these kids got it so good.
A little envious, maybe?
Definitely envious. I'm stoked for them genuinely too,
Yeah.
like to have that much support. It's just who knows, maybe things will change. I think like it's a little interesting to see maybe how overinvested people are too. And like thinking like,
yeah.
Oh, your kid's going to be a pro surfer too. Oh, cool. Good luck.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah. And maybe they can be. That's great. Like give them everything you can to get them there. I hope that's a reality for them.
So let me ask you this, and maybe you don't even have the answer to this, but
sure.
Do you watch pro surfing today?
I do. Yeah. I'll watch some of the events, especially if the waves are good. It's more interesting to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think most of us, but okay. But basically the pro surfers are making a lot of money, the top guys, but there's a lot of guys out there sponsor lists. It's not like in the 80s and 90s where everyone had a sticker on the board.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I saw that change for sure. Like as I got to a ripe age where like, my skill set was coming into a place of like, being more marketable and having more opportunities, that system kind of shifted. Like a lot of those guys that had established careers, they were older, but it seems like that money was restructured into the contest specifically. There was less of like that local pro thing, which was really prevalent and
yes,
being exploited. And like I'm so stoked for those guys. They deserved it. They dedicated their life and their heart and everything into it. And they got not just recognition, but they got, paychecks and cars, and some of them were smart and got houses. And that template for sure has shifted, as you're talking about.
Yeah. So you got all these guys with sprinter vans that their son or daughter is the next big thing, but that pie's gotten smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's crazy.
I don't know how maybe just getting older and seeing, behind the curtain a little more. It's like, I don't know how realistic that is, but again, who knows? Who knows where it's going? It could change.
Okay. So now talking about back to today, so you're going up and down the coast surfing. Is it wide open down there still and up there?
Yeah. I mean, it's certain spots more than others for sure. Yeah. I've kind of like learned from my elders, like took me to spots, and there's kind of codes of conduct, even though, sure, there's arguments. Do we shoot photos here? Do we, create content that, reflects these areas on, different levels or another? You try and operate with integrity and not like whatever. Yeah. Does stuff get exploited? Absolutely. But, that's not the intention. You try to do it with utmost respect and dignity to protect your spot, and you're not, projecting it in a way where you're giving everything away. So yeah, there's still places that are wide open.
Yeah. So you've gotten a lot of photos and a lot of little like short films and stuff about yourself.
Yeah, just editorial and stuff. I think for me, like my path with surfing is I realized, like I really enjoy surfing as self-expression, and I have, a lot of good friends that are really talented in their photography or video stuff, and that was kind of more my route and what appealed to me, from my elders and elite Santa Cruz folk, that like, oh, you don't have to do the contest, like you could. There's different approaches and ways to make this marketable. So,
and a lot of the different short films, you're riding totally different equipment. Like you're right.
Yeah, more so. Yeah, it's more wide open these days for sure. As I get older, it's like I want to keep learning and I want to enjoy surfing. Like my inspiration, is like that 70 and 80-year-old guy who like still shows up to the beach with a sparkle in his eye, and it's just like the simpleness of, I want to ride waves. I want to be here. This is still my community, and it's not just like, oh, I don't get paid to surf anymore, so I'm, maybe I need to go pound nails, but, I just, whatever, surfing,
Surfing, you love still.
I love surfing too much to want to let that go. So for me, it's like I am always reinvesting my heart and exploring like where I get that result. And that's like learning new things and old and new, and working with board builders that I respect and admire, and being curious.
So I'm going to pick your brain on learning something new, like just how boards work differently. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Like for instance, I just got burnt out on the contemporary shortboard. I started having like a lot of fun on twin fins, kind of like mid-30s. And I was like, started working with Stretch on, different designs and testing stuff for him. And I was like, we started tinkering with twin fins. And then I was like, oh, this thing's super fun. And then I was like, oh, like this thing really works in good waves too. It's not just like an average or sub-average daily driver. And then we kind of went down this rabbit hole. It was like, okay, I want to make twin fins for good waves. Let's explore this. And that was like, Stretch, before his windsurfing accident, he really loved twin fins. So I think that hit a heartstring, and we, developed this relationship where we were just like down the rabbit hole. So all my contemporary equipment, so to speak, is I'd say primarily twin fins, no trailer, just like, exploring outlines and combinations of like how to get a result with two fins instead of needing that third fin.
On the twin fin setup, what's your like, how big are your fins? Are you getting the glass in, or are you doing?
We're doing future, Stretch.
Future? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes some glass-ons, not so much from Stretch, but he's like really advanced in his construction technologies and materials he uses. So we don't ever, like, obviously you load up a bigger fin, being a twin fin, a lot more. And sometimes people blow the boxes out, but I've never had that issue with his stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of
So I mean, depending on the design, again, I'm like all over the place, not just really, I get bored easy. So I think surfboards are just a way for me to like, not
express
just learn,
yourself?
but stay excited and like adapt to, it's like that antidote for, just being inspired. Like I just want to keep it all moving. And
So twin fin versus like the keel twin fins. What's the difference for you?
I mean, I like the twin keel fins, like primarily like in, they typically have, even though they're a shorter board, they have a straighter outline. So I like, I think it's a common misperception that those boards work in just average waves, but I really find they work better in good waves because they do a longer, more gradual, pronounced turn, with a straighter outline and the longer fin. It's like you need that open face to complete the turn, but like to surf a fish properly and have, be using your rails and connecting everything and taking all the spaz and pumping and fast twitch stuff out of it is like, that's a beautiful art form to me. But then obviously, it's like you got the other twin fins for waves of consequence or round waves where they, you don't have to worry about the wide tail sliding out. You have freedom to adjust your line in tight parts of the barrel where like, a third fin might be like you're stuck in your line and you're getting stuck on the foam ball, and you can make subtle adjustments to make it work.
When you're working on short film, or let's just say you have a photographer or a videographer with you. Yeah. Does your surfing change?
I think it does. Yeah. It's like, obviously you're trying to make something. So you want to give someone your best opportunity, whether, depending what the objective is, you want to be riding good waves and you want to be surfing your best. And sometimes that takes the right day. Sometimes it takes the right headspace, but is it, sometimes I'll just think too much about like, or just get too attached to like wanting everything to be perfect, as opposed to when there's not a camera there. It's like maybe there's just less attachment and more like dropping into the space of what is actually going on, as opposed to like, oh, like I need to ride this wave like this to create a result for somebody.
Yes. Does surfing ever turn into a job for you when you're doing that kind of stuff? Or is it all surfing's just surfing and you love it kind of thing?
Yeah. Regardless. Yeah. I mean,
that make sense? The question?
No, I really kind of have an aversion even in my older life to like professional surfing because I love surfing so much. It's like it's always been from the heart. Granted, it's like
100%.
when you get paid to surf, you have obligations and less control
Yeah.
and freedom to do all the things you want to do, but you just find a way to
Yeah.
try and combine them both. But obviously, it's a job. You're accountable for whatever your job responsibilities are. Creating, for me, it was, creating editorial content and
Yes.
promoting the brands.
Yeah. Lately, how's Santa Cruz been?
Yeah, it's been
Waves
good.
wise? Yeah.
Wave wise, I feel like, we've had one or two decently substantial swells. We haven't had like, it hasn't really turned on, but we've had consistent waves.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the season change. Autumn is like my favorite time of year because we still have Southern Hemisphere swells and we're getting swells from the Northern Hemisphere as well. So that it really opens everything up and starts breaking up the crowds. And, obviously the weather and conditions are incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So actually I have one quote from you, which
Sure.
I thought about it. I'm still thinking about.
Yeah.
It says, "Are you consuming shit and keeping the bills paid?"
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Like,
I guess,
the human race, right? Is that what it's aimed
yeah,
towards?
I think like what is your,
Life perspective? Kind of
yeah,
thing?
what means something to you?
Okay.
Are you in tune with the subtleties of life? Like what makes you excited to be here? Or is it just like, are you just punching that clock and keeping your bills paid? What brings you joy?
Yeah.
What is a significant, worthwhile existence to you?
And do you think surfers have a different perspective on life than most of the population of the world?
Yeah, I mean, surfers are broad and far. I'll try not to speak so black and white, but yeah,
Okay.
I think the people that have invested their lives into surfing, it's like a lot of them seem to have a connection with the natural world, or
Yep. You're getting back to nature.
spirituality, or something greater than their own ego.
Okay.
Or just something deeper than just
8 to 5 going back and drinking beers in the
yeah.
garage.
Hey, if that works for you, no judgment.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make anyone uncomfortable about their lifestyle choices,
yeah,
but I'm just saying for me specifically, like, I want balance and equilibrium. I want meaning, and like I want to be curious about things outside of just like my own selfish ego.
Yeah. I'm actually, so I usually don't throw in what I think, but
Sure.
sometimes I see people and I'm like, I'm so happy. I mean, even if I suck at surfing that day and I didn't get a good wave,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I'm just lucky enough. Like they're missing life, and I got to live it for that hour.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing. I think obviously everyone's relationship with surfing is different, but man, we're so fortunate just to think of the people that haven't even seen the ocean in their life.
That's true.
Think your whole life, surfing. It's like, think of all the moments of joy you've spent with your loved ones, or watched a sunrise, or been in touch with something greater than yourself that means something to you. You keep showing up and doing it, and it's enriching your existence here.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about, I don't know why I'm talking about me most, but
please,
the sunset was rad last night, right? So I surfed and I was in a good mood. I got a couple fun waves, and all these people are pulling over, taking pictures of the sunset. And I did too. I took a couple pictures.
Rad.
But I'm thinking, like, I've seen thousands and thousands of sunsets. And a lot of these people, I hear them on the beach, like, they see 2 a year.
Yeah.
I just don't understand, but I think we're lucky that we surf.
I agree. I think we're blessed beyond measure, just to be here and be able to perceive things other than just like what's going on in our email or our phone, or, what we want to eat for dinner, or, our obligations to, survive.
And you said
spirituality.
Is surfing spiritual for you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think for me, it's kind of like communion with, the natural world, communion with spirit being, the creation of all things, and opportunity to connect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I want to talk to you real quickly about your last name, or your name in general, the Gooch.
Sure.
Okay, what name? Where does that come from?
It's a funny name for sure. I got
It's a rad
heckled
name.
a bunch. Everyone called me Gooch as a kid. That was just like easier.
Yep.
It's a family name. My dad being from England, it's his family's name.
Yeah.
And then Darshan is probably equally as unusual for us here in the United States. It was a given name by my mom's spiritual teacher, who was Swami Muktananda. He was a yogi who came from India and shared, Siddha yoga and philosophy and spirituality with Western culture, and had ashrams and a following. And it's just super odd, strange name, but I don't know any different. I've been called much worse.
Yeah. But that name is just, it is totally different, but you're not the only Darshan out there.
Yeah, I think it's more popular in India, and Darshan is like, it has different meanings, but
Okay.
It's like a blessing of lasting value. It's like
Rad.
Yeah, a blessing from a spiritual teacher to his student with lasting value.
Wow. Well, Darshan, it was super fun.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks so much for having me. It was cool to sit here with you and have this strange virtual conversation. And I hope I get to shake your hand one of these days, or hug it out with you, ride a wave, whatever.
Yeah, 100%. I love Pleasure Point, to be honest with you.
Come by anytime.
What's it, Sewer Pipes or whatever?
Sewer Peak, yeah.
Yeah, Sewer Peak. It's kind of a fun wave.
Yeah, come surf. Be stoked to ride some waves with you.
Yeah. So anyhow, everybody, this is Mike and Darshan Gooch, and we're out of here. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a fantastic sunny day. Boys and girls hanging round. Surfers going up and down. That's when I caught my wave. Knew what to do. Surf that wave right to the shore. And yes, dreams come true. What a fantastic sunny day. Boys and girls hanging around. Surfers going up and down. When I caught my wave, knew what to do. Surf that wave right to the shore. And yes, my dream came true.
Hey, you guys. Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.